Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Mirror Point where reality checks itself. Tonight, I was just going to go over the really nice discussion I had earlier today. This was on anti-physicalism, my arguments for being anti-physicalism and promoting an idealistic worldview. So we just kind of, I answered a few questions, kind of explained the whole thing, and we went into it. So I'll get right to it, and I'll be right back. Let's. Hey, Sophia, what's going on? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, hold up. Still plugging in my damn shit.
That damn internet.
Wait. Oh shit.
That's
Granny
some great
City.
Where'd you get that internet from? Great value? Like me, I got my internet from Great Value, man. Top shelf.
Man, hold on. I'm trying to figure out where to plug it. Wait a second, man. I'm fucking up.
What are you trying to do?
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Can you hear me,
cool.
Scott?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I hope there's not a big lag.
No, it seems to be working now. It just, I don't know. It crashed and then we restarted it and it seems to be fine now.
Okay. Cool. Well, man, I had a really good conversation today. This was on this channel called Answers in Atheism. And I think one of the guys is from the Kentucky Atheist channel. But these were two nice guys. They identified as hard physicalists. And so they were interested to hear what my views were on anti-physicalism, if I had any, and where I disagreed with it. And they wanted to understand a little bit more about it. And then what else would make better sense than physicalism. So I chose to, defend idealism over physicalism. So it became a really good, interesting conversation. Not argumentative at all. Very nice up front. They were like, look, we don't want to argue. We just want to give you the stage and let you talk. And we'll maybe push back with some questions if we have to. But other than that, we just want to hear the other side, So in that spirit, it was a really good conversation, right? And so I just want to give them props because they did sort of advertise our channel, and they also suggested people subscribe to the channel, which was really good. We picked up a few more subs that way. So it was a really good day for all of that stuff. And in fact, if you do like this content, like and subscribe. We are trying to build up so we can have some really famous guests on, people like that would definitely love to talk to us. They just need more subscribers. They know that there's enough views and stuff like that. So yeah, that's what that is. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and bring up the video. And I'll wait for a few people to file in. I'm not sure how many people are seeing. It looks like no one's out there in the audience just yet. Usually they start filing in. I'll wait for Sophia to get back on too. But yeah, it was a really good conversation. Sorry for the lighting on my end. It's nighttime here right now when I'm doing this video, and I don't have a lot of good light coming in the window except in the daytime. So it's a little dark in here. But like I said, the conversation went really well. In fact, it made me think about a few things in terms of labeling you know, because I always go back and forth. Is consciousness the right word to describe some of the things I'm talking about, or not? Or what is a better word for it, right? Oh, I've been thinking about that, but it's just kind of like a placeholder term, you know, consciousness. Hey, Joe, how's it going, man? Just waiting for Sophia to come back on, see if we can get into the video and just go over it, man. I was just saying that it was a really nice conversation, and you know, we had a good time. Logan from the Uncarved Block says, I'm listening. You should contact Andrew Wilson. He sometimes helps small channels by making an appearance. He can be challenging, but he does have an audience. Yeah, cool. Andrew Wilson. I'm trying to think who that is. I don't think it's that political guy, that conservative guy, is it? No, that's somebody else. Andrew Wilson. I have to look him up. Sounds familiar. And I'm usually good about remembering all the YouTube talking heads out here.
Oh
And
my God.
somebody's calling you.
Hold on, Sky. I got everything at once.
This is funny. Yes, that's the guy I'm thinking about. From he is a conservative. The Crucible is his channel. He's the one that made Dillahunty run. Yes, that's the guy I was thinking about. Andrew Wilson. Okay. Yeah, that guy is funny, man. He's a good debater, though. I'll give him that. He knows how to pull stuff back to his point. Like, he doesn't let people go too far. And he stays really consistent with his points, you know. So I think he's an awesome debater. I might not really agree with a lot of his conclusions, and he would blow my channel up really big. But the thing about Andrew Wilson, I don't know if he really argues for Christianity as a metaphysic. I think he mainly argues for Christian nationalism as a political movement. Maybe we could talk about that, I guess. Yeah, that'd be awesome. That helped me blow my channel up for sure. But man, that guy he gets pretty savage though. I've seen him debate people earlier this week. I was like, damn, he goes in, buddy. But yeah, he made Dillahunty run because he started talking about the trans topic. And Matt Dillahunty found it offensive and said it wasn't what he was there for and walked off. But I think he was connecting some stuff. It might not have been a conclusion Matt liked. I don't understand why Dillahunty had to leave the debate over that. I thought that was a little, you know, kind of cringy. But I don't know. Everybody's different. Some people have a thick skin and some people don't. But in today's discussion, it really wasn't like that. It wasn't like a debate. It was just a discussion. But it's worth going over because I noticed that a lot of things that were asked of me, I didn't have my sources to back it up right then and there. So it kind of felt like just two people disagreeing over some things that no one could really prove one way or the other. Just small things, but I'll be able to talk about that. Hey, Collapsalism, how's it going, brother? Love to see you here. Dillahunty mentioned politicians going after trans persons in his opening. Yeah, he did. He certainly did. Yeah, I'm sure a bunch of people came just to see Matt, and he made them waste their ticket. For real, man. Because he showed up, and you thought you were going to see a really good debate. That would have been really good, actually, I thought. Because Matt's not a bad debater either. I like Matt as a debater. But, shit, man. He couldn't stick it out. Enjoy your end of and new year. I'm heading out. Okay, man. Well, be safe. I'm staying in the house right now. I'm not trying to get back out there. So I'm going to kind of stay my butt in the house before I really take a risk tonight. But you have a good time, man. Have a really good time. All right, you're back.
I'm
Can you
so
hear us?
sorry, man. I had everything happen.
No problem. I can hear you. You're roboting a little bit, but it might take time to smooth out, you know, as the data flows, as our session flows. We can just give it a wing. What I can do is just, I'll play the video and I'll stop it on points. Okay. Yeah, there's a bit of a lag.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, maybe that'll help.
What about now?
Yeah, I can hear you a lot better. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna let the tape roll, man.
Hey, here we are. Now we're live everywhere. On your channel, all I can see is you. So
yeah, it's having a hard time pulling up. And it's going to be funny because we're going to hear you call in, Sophia. We're going to hear you calling me, telling me, you're not streaming live. That was embarrassing. Yeah,
hey, the background looks pretty dope.
But yeah, it is pretty dope though, huh?
We have our first side chatter, and that is Laborious Cretan. I'm just too lazy to type, so I'm just going to say welcome, Laborious Cretan.
Welcome, Laborious Cretan. Somebody find one.
All right.
So, okay. Are you ready? Are you ready?
I am ready.
You're ready to tell us about...
Yep, I'm ready. I'm just going to end my screen. Yeah, so idealism is well, first of all, I just want to say thanks for having me on, right? So I'm here kind of just to make a simple case, and basically, like, we're talking about anti-physicalism versus idealism. So we'll pull these, I guess we'll pull these definitions up in a minute, but from my point of view, what I'm going to be talking about is how physicalism, first of all, faces a few impossible problems. Like, it has to explain how subjective experience arises from fundamentally non-conscious matter. And so, like, after centuries, no one's really described what that would look like in principle. So idealism sort of reverses this. So instead of deriving mind from matter, we start with consciousness as fundamental, and then explain the physical world as structured, you know, patterns within it itself. So the hard, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with this thing we call the hard problem of consciousness, but it disappears when we're not trying to pull consciousness just out of thin air, right? So what I'm going to do, and part of what makes me lean that way, is, first of all, I have to take history into account when looking at, like, notions of reality. Like, human paradigms are kind of shaped by cultural norms, you know, technologies, institutional alignments like the church or, you know, academia. So rather than just arising out of nothing, they sort of come from these cultural influences. So what a society takes to be like obvious reality is really just a worldview that best fits its tools, institutions, and the intellectual climate at any given time. So for me, it's fair to say that this could be the case today. As smart and clever as we assume we are, I think it's always valid to question our current assumptions about reality. And so that's kind of what motivates that, first of all.
Okay.
So, yeah, so that was kind of like a little opening that I had, you know, for that. And I think Sophia, she dropped off. So when she comes back, I will let her in, but I'll keep on going with the video. That was kind of like my little short opening. Anyways, hopefully that makes a little sense.
Yeah.
You know, and because idealism is just it's just switching the paradigm. It's just turning, instead of saying matter is fundamental, is saying consciousness is fundamental, which may be a bit unintuitive because in our culture we've been taught the other way around. And so idealism just kind of turns this on its head. So all the science, all the observations, everything is still fitting. It's underdetermined. What we see in the world doesn't evidence one metaphysic over the other. So we can still keep the science, we can still keep the law-like patterns, everything like that. It's just that when we go into metaphysics to try to understand what is reality, we have to kind of like compare the metaphysical models against each other and see which one is more, parsimonious, which one is more explanatory and has internal consistency.
Okay.
So at least those three things you would look for a strong metaphysical argument, right? Meaning you don't want to make too many assumptions, like say with theism, God has all these infinite amount of qualities. Well, that's just an infinite amount of stuff you need to explain. And if you can't, they're just all assumptions, which is fine, but it just creates something that is hard for you to explain, to tell somebody about. And so it becomes unvirtuous when it comes to metaphysical argumentation, right? So you want it to be as parsimonious as possible. So in this case, we could say like dualism versus non-dualism. Dualism means not one, and non-dualism is not two. So obviously, non-dualism is already more parsimonious. You're only talking about one thing. So both of these worldviews are trying to be parsimonious. Physicalism is saying everything is, one thing, which is physical. That's fundamental all the way up. So physical stuff is the ground or the foundation, and it explains all the physical things, including consciousness, because consciousness is just a byproduct of the physical thing that's fundamental to everything. And so idealism just turns this around and says, no, consciousness is that fundamental thing. And so you can compare these two worldviews and see which one checks more boxes, which one is more parsimonious, which one has more explanatory power, and which one is more internally consistent. At least those three virtues, right?
So you mentioned one problem of physicalism. What are the other problems? So you mentioned the hard problem of consciousness would be one.
Do we need to go ahead and define physicalism so that we're not talking around about people?
Yeah, let's define physicalism so we don't. Yeah.
Okay. Now, all of this is just from a Copilot search, and of course, now my Copilot is being very sticky. Okay. I'm just going to read off the most widely accepted definition of physicalism according.
Before he does that, I just want to say hello, Robin Hood. I saw you earlier in that stream, in fact, and glad to see you here. Really glad to see you. Welcome.
To Copilot. You can always research it on your own, like, articles and things like that. Physicalism is the view that everything that exists is fundamentally physical, that there's nothing over and above the physical world. This includes.
So keep that in mind. Like I said, physicalism is saying that everything is physical. It's fundamental. There's nothing above or below the atoms that are not physical. Everything is physical. That's fundamental.
Objects, events, properties, phenomena, even those that seem non-physical, like consciousness or morality. Everything ultimately depends on or supervenes on physical facts. That's the core definition used in contemporary metaphysics and philosophy of mind. There's a little bit of an expanded definition here. All phenomena are either physical or fully determined by physical properties and physical laws. Mental, biological, and social phenomena are not separate substances. And that's, I think, just in response to, types of idealism. They arise from physical processes like brain activity. There's one kind of fundamental stuff in the universe, the physical, making physicalism a form of ontological modalism. I sound so smart when I say modalism. But anyway, that's the definition. I can put it up on the screen if you want us to, but
Yeah.
So that's really good to get a working definition. Like, you
Yeah.
don't want to get down a conversation and they say, well, that's not what I mean by physicalism. You can't just group me into all these other people that claim they're physicalists, because I don't hold those particular views. So I was glad to get a definition. What were you going to say, Sophia?
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I was actually subbed already, not sure how I came to your channel. Yeah, that'd be interesting to figure that out. Not sure. But
Maybe
thanks for
just pop
subbing.
up.
Yeah. You came out of nothing.
okay.
We came to you.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Or
use
can you-
the. Hold on, Mike.
I agree with all of that. I pretty much agree with that. So that would be my view, basically.
Let's see. Let's share screen. Window. There we go. I am so sorry for. Now, can you see the Copilot page?
Yes. I can
Okay.
see it.
I pulled up the concise summary table just because it's a better presentation. What exists? Only physical things. Mind-body relation. Mind depends entirely on the physical brain. Higher level phenomenon, fully grounded in physical processes. Metaphysical stance, ontological monism, opposed to dualism, idealism, and panpsychism.
Okay, good.
Right.
So now I'm going to take
That's
it
a
off
good
the screen.
definition.
Oh, damn. You took it out. Okay.
You want me to put it back on? I can do that. I have skills.
No. I was going
I
to
can
tell
put
you,
it back on.
put it back on because I want to take a snapshot because I want to pull it up here for reference because that pretty much covers it. So, okay, the hard problem of consciousness would be one problem. So we're looking for other problems. I'll check for, and we're gonna try to get a screenshot here.
But there really doesn't need to have that many
Okay,
problems.
Got it, Scott. You're
Okay, I'm
done.
gonna stop sharing because
All you need
I
is
just don't like
one.
to share.
I know you don't. Fucking text them.
So
Okay. Other problems. Are we there?
all right. So one of the main problem with that metaphysic is that the evidence flies in the face of that metaphysic, even on physicalism itself. So the main problem with physicalism is it doesn't stand up to its own standards. That's the first thing that jumps out at me. So in other words, the claim is with physicalism, the claim is that one of the core claims is that physicality is fundamental, right? That, you know, physical things like matter, energy, things like this are fundamental, right? So what does fundamental mean?
Okay.
No clue. Like when you talk about something being fundamental, that means that it has standalone existence. It doesn't need anything else. It's sort of like the ground upon which everything rests on, right?
Okay.
But on physicalism itself, all of these things, matter, energy, all these physical things, stop being observable at 10 to the minus 33 centimeters. That's the Planck scale. So you got the Planck scale, Planck time, 10 to the minus 45 centimeters. It's not a matter of just being ignorant or not being able to see beyond that point because of lack of technology or tools or something like that. If you you know, if you apply the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, as you shine more energy into like a bit of matter, and you go all the way, and you almost get below 10 to the minus 33 centimeters, what you do is you create a black hole. You know, gravity with all that energy and that principle creates a black hole. So as you measure down, it becomes immeasurable. There's nothing there to measure. It's meaningless as far as physics is concerned. So what happens is, on physicalism, if it can't be measured, if it can't be described in those terms and predicted, then it's meaningless, which means it's like God. Like, gods are meaningless because you can't observe them, you can't make any predictions on them, you can't do anything like that. And so just on physicalism itself, matter, everything that we call physical, is not fundamental. That's the point. It's not that we don't observe physicality. We do. We call it physical. Whatever this experience is, we can label it physical. But at a certain threshold, physicality is no longer fundamental. And that's why we have different scientific views. Like, you know, some people postulate like a, multiverses. Like, there's beyond that Planck scale, there's multiverses of more physical stuff. Or there's a geometric pattern called the amplituhedron, which is what many people say that is going to get space and time, emerges out of these geometrical spaces. But all of these things are just abstractions. They're not really physical things we've empirically measured or can make any predictive things on, right? So on that point, Joel's saying, seems like a conflation or confusion between physicalism and empiricism. Well, if you can't empirically measure something, then all you're doing is you're making an argument for the flying spaghetti monster. You're just saying, well, while we can't see the flying spaghetti monster has these noodly appendages that can explain all the things that we see and do. So just because we can't see it, you're conflating, flying spaghetti monster religion and empiricism. Not really, because remember, on physicalism, they make the claim that physical things are fundamental. If you can't observe something after a certain threshold, then it's no longer fundamental. You can't say that it's fundamental. You can't make that claim. All you can do is you can make models of hypothesis, like string, there's string theory or multiverse theory or some other physical thing that we just don't know about, some unknown physical thing. But until that's really observed empirically and even philosophically, it's just a metaphysical claim. And that's the point, that you're building on something that is an abstraction, something we know has no standalone. Anyways, do you have any thoughts on that, Sophia?
That's a fact. I'm looking at it. I'm reading it. Planck scale, 10 to the minus 35 m, whatever that means.
Mm-hmm.
Says space and time lose meaning. Location cannot be defined. Geometry dissolves into fluctuations. Physics literally cannot describe what's there. This is not a technical limitation. It's an ontological breakdown. There's no smaller thing. There's only behavior, relation, and constraint. So that is a fact.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at it.
Right. I'll agree to that. It doesn't necessarily say you can observe the fundamental substance, just that it's all physical. Okay, I can agree to that. But that's a big, I don't know, because like we just read, the Planck scale is a real thing. So that's the lowest scale we can go to observe matter. in physical things. So it's just there's nothing there to give you a reason to say that it all comes from physical, except just an inference, So anyways, I'm gonna keep going, right? For right now, anyways. So as it is right now, what the things we call physical cannot be fundamental. That's why science is looking beyond the Planck scale to learn more about reality. And we already know that physical things are just immeasurable. So that's part of the argument that I have against that claim that physicalism is fundamental.
Okay. So that would be an interpretation of quantum mechanics is another problem, basically.
No, this isn't an interpretation of quantum mechanics.
That's physics.
No.
I mean,
That's just physics. Yeah, and that's science. I mean, that's well, quantum mechanics is a science, but this is just a limitation we're all aware of. It's consensus. But anyways, I'll keep going on. You'll make that point.
Putting quantum mechanics.
That's not really an interpretation. That's sort of a brute fact right now. Everyone agrees to that.
Agrees
because
to what? That you can't observe things?
You can't measure beyond the Planck scale. The Planck scale is textbook. Well, if go ahead.
Okay. If you're looking at something and you can measure, I can measure my iPhone. Okay. Why do I need to go to this abstraction of physical experiments at CERN and all of the mess that we have right now with fundamental physics?
I didn't understand why I asked that though. Like, obviously you don't have to.
He's saying that because he can see his cell phone. What's the point of digging deeper?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What is he saying?
Yeah, that's the point, I think.
Why do I need to go there? Basically, I can observe my iPhone right now. It's there. So anyway,
that's not an argument.
I shouldn't be. Yeah.
No, you're good. It's a good question. People have that question. And like I would say, you don't really have to. You would only, it seems to open up a question though, if you're talking about fundamental reality. When we talk about fundamental reality, we're talking about a ground upon which everything else we know that exists must rest upon. Like, for example, theists will say God is the fundamental reality. Idealists will say consciousness or something mind-like is the fundamental reality. And materialists or physicalists will say the physical is fundamental reality. And so where do you look? Well, you look at matter. How far can we measure matter? And matter comes to a very arbitrary spot where we can't measure it anymore. Not just, like I say, because of our limitation. We can actually shine more energy on matter. It's just that at a specific point, it breaks down and it's no longer measurable. That means it's no longer fundamental at that point. It may be fundamental after that point, but it's not fundamental beyond that point. That's my my point.
Okay. So that's number 2. Is there another?
I don't have a problem with physicalism with anything else. I mean, it's great at getting us to the moon, getting us to Mars, doing all the things it needs to do. I don't have a problem with physicalism. I just have a problem with metaphysical claims about physicalism is the only thing that I'm really addressing, that metaphysical claim.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know which to go after.
And here's another which I probably shouldn't have done that. I should have just let them try to figure out ways to ask stuff. I was just throwing them ideas that they could question me with, just things I've always heard, but I probably shouldn't have done that because I actually went down a few rabbit holes that were kind of unnecessary. but I thought it was kind of necessary, like talking about Michael Levin and his work, but it kind
I don't
of
think
went.
they know. I don't think they know that much about it. It seems to me, you know, that they don't really get into that kind of stuff. Seems like.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I'm saying. I shouldn't have went down too much because it's a little too much. You know, it's almost like when they hear all this stuff, you got to understand maybe from their position, it just sounds like a lot of,
They don't
you know,
understand it.
yeah, like, I don't know.
Who the hell
It
sits
just,
at home and studies the Planck scale? I didn't know.
right.
What that
Yeah. Like,
was.
like the
So,
dude said, look, all I want to know is my iPhone work or not? Why do I got to do all that? Like, that's just the way they think. You know, it's almost like when you talk
you
when
doing
you
too
talk to
much, man.
Christians. Yeah, you're doing too much. You know, it's like the little old lady at the church. She don't give a fuck about the problem of evil or any of that shit. You know, it's like
She going
all
there to
she
sing
knows
her
is she
song.
loves her Jesus.
Yeah.
All I know is when I go to church, I feel good coming out. That's all I know and all I need to know. Shit.
Right.
Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah, you go right ahead.
No. Do your other thing first. We want to give you an opportunity first.
Okay. Well,
before I start.
well,
Sidetrack.
well, you know, physicalism will say, for example, that consciousness itself is a physical process, right? Like,
Yep.
It'll say that, well, experience is physical. We identify it as a brain process.
I think the most
Mhm.
correct way to say it, according to physicalists, is that consciousness depends on physical or brain processes. I don't think they're trying to say, because that's where the idea of supervenience or what's the other word, emergent or whatever comes from, is
Emergence,
it's a thing in and of its own self, but you can't have consciousness or mental without physical brain function. Anyway, I'll back
right.
out, but I just wanted to, I don't know, put my 2 cents in there.
I lost my train of thought.
Right. So like one of the things that just kind of occurred to me, are you guys familiar with mereological nihilism?
Lord have mercy.
I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, man. Okay. So this is kind of a good, mereological nihilism. So this is sort of a view that kind of makes a distinction between physical things and consciousness, right? And it may be convincing to you. So I'll just kind of bring this up.
Seriously?
So, on mereological nihilism,
and their eyes will roll back to the back of their head. It's like, what the fuck is this dude talking about? Like, that was a big mistake trying to come up with things, you know, to maybe help move the conversation. Because a lot of that
help it, all right.
Yeah, it just puts people in a, you know, like, what the fuck are you talking about? It just creates more problems, you know, in a conversation. You gotta read your audience, you know. So I'm gonna kind of skip ahead because it's a long video. It's like an hour. Let's see. Properties that create a brand new novel physical property. But what physicalism is saying about consciousness is that you've got these physical properties that give rise to this experiential, conceptual property. And physical properties are third-person observables. Not so with consciousness. Like I say, it's first person, it's disassociated from other minds. So it's an entirely different property. And so that would need explaining. You can't really just say, it's kind of like the fire triangle. It just, fire comes about through oxygen and these other interactions. But all of that stuff is physical. So with consciousness, though, we have a category error. It's a conceptual gap. And that's why they call it the hard problem of consciousness. Right now,
Yeah.
physicalism doesn't really close that gap, where idealism, it starts with consciousness at the very beginning as the assumption, and that closes the consciousness gap right there, you know. So explanatorily, it works a lot better, is my argument.
Okay. Okay. Damn, I disagree with everything you said. But
Yeah, cool.
I don't know where to start. It's like a smorgasbord. It's like a smorgasbord. But cool. Okay.
Mhm.
You said mind is unified, conscious, that mind is a unified thing. How did you put that? You used a different word, I think. You said mind is like it's all one thing and can't be divided. How did you put that? I think
Yeah, so it's
indivisible.
not to say that minds can't fractal off, because that's even part of my view. Minds, we know that the mind can be fractaled off. It's just a conscious experience. When we talk about phenomenal, blah blah, phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
Did not get that word
Yeah,
right.
it's so
I am
hard to say.
laughing my ass off now.
Phenomena. Yeah. That phenomena. It's always one stream. Like, even if you had like DID, you know, this dissociated identity disorder, you have
Yeah.
all these different alters, right?
Yep.
But at any
Oh,
given time, yeah, like at any given
just-
time, there's one conscious stream. You know, there may be different alters, but you're only conscious of one stream at a time,
Yeah.
right? And
You
so
just
that's
use
what I
a
mean by it's
Castrop term.
unified.
Are you a
Yeah, it's a
Castropian?
Castrop term. Say that again.
Okay. Are you a Castropian?
Of course, I've listened to Castrop. I listened to Nathan Hawkins, Castrop, David Chalmers, and physicalists too. So I listen to everybody. But that's a good analogy, though, because I agree with that analogy, because it is an example of some kind of disassociation within the same structure, right?
Yeah.
And so that works to say what
That
I was
comment.
saying, that, you know, consciousness seems to be
Had enough coffee.
a streamlined subjective experience.
Phenomenology.
It doesn't share its
Phenomenology, that's a hard
association with
word.
other minds, even if those other minds are within your own brain, say, so to speak, right? They're still disassociated. So there is this unity, and that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Does Castrop spell alter with an A or an E? Altar or alter?
I guess it would be alter, ALTER.
T-E-R. Okay. T-E-R.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, even with dissociated, or let's say alters, even with dissociative. Okay, how do you know you've had enough coffee? Try to pronounce phenomenology. Also, try to pronounce.
There you go.
So, anyway, with people who have alters, haven't they done neurological tests and found that you can actually see different parts of the brain lit up on whatever imaging test when a particular alter is prominent? So to me, that seems to be arguing for a physicalist.
So yeah, more correlation. So it's making a correlation argument again, which is just underdetermined, because idealism accepts all the correlations too. But yeah,
Right.
that's a common one. That's always a common one. Like, if you damage the brain, you change your experience. You know, that sort of thing.
Type of approach. Although I'm sorry, we weren't supposed to rebut, were we?
No, it's okay.
No, you can. I mean, it's a good question. Put it as a question. Like, how do you explain that?
Yeah, it seems to
Something
me
like that.
that would make anyway, go. Yeah, how do you explain that?
Okay, yeah. So, like, on a physicalist paradigm, you would say that's the causal chain right there. You'll say, when that brain lights up, then this experience happens, right?
Well, I would call
But
it
you know,
suggestive.
it would suggest that there's some causal link between the brain and the experience, right? And I would say that, you know, it works on idealism too. It doesn't really dismiss anything idealism say. There's a case called Phineas Gage, where, you know, he had like a pipe that went up through his chin. He was once a real nice guy. Then his character totally changed after this pole affected his brain. And so he became sort of a different person in a way, right? And so you say, oh, well, that proves it, that this physical thing can touch in on your physical brain and then change your experience. And that's not really what's in question with idealism. There's still an experience, though. That's what needs to be explained. Like, you know, for me, the kind of naturalistic idealist I am, I totally expect law-like patterns. I expect the brain to be just like, you don't even have to go that far. You just say drinking alcohol is going to make me drunk. That's not surprising. You know, the brain is, to put it, another Castrop says that the brain is just what consciousness looks like from a third-party disassociated boundary. So it's not that there's consciousness out there necessarily, like outside of you. It's just that we are all embodied within consciousness. That's what idealism is trying to say, you know. So these sort of correlations aren't really surprises like that. They're just correlation, but correlation does not equal causation.
So Castrop saying that mind is, or brain is what a mind out there looks like. Is that what I forget how you said that.
And it doesn't have to be like a brain the way he describes it. It could just be you looking in the mirror. Like when you look in the mirror, you look at yourself, you see your physical body, but that's kind of like what your being looks like from a third party view, right? It's just there's like you know, from the third party observation, consciousness may look like neurons firing. From a first person subjective view, it may look like the things you're visualizing when those neurons are firing. So it's just, they look different from different perspectives is what I guess the point I was trying to make there. Like the same way that you see anything, like any object that you see, that you observe it within your own, you know, interface, right?
Yeah.
And so what you're looking at is just different aspects of the cosmic mind, if you will, or I don't like these kind of terms because they're sort of sloppy, but you're looking at disassociation of the mind at large. So I would just clarify, like, idealism doesn't necessarily predict disembodied consciousness. It's just suggesting that bodies are objects within consciousness, not containers for it. So
and a body is what the other consciousness looks like to you, that sort of thing.
Right.
That sort of
correct.
Okay.
Right.
There's a hard problem there, by the way, that Castrop has, in that how exactly does mind, you know, which is like for him, there's all these dissociated or alters out there, right, that are all mapped onto this whole, you know, this whole consciousness. How does that connect with it looking like a brain? How does it make it look like a brain? That I would like to know.
Why?
So that's a hard problem.
Why is the disassociation there? Yeah, I get that. That's a good question. And but the parody here is that it's the same problem with physicalism, because they're saying that how can you get consciousness out of non-conscious matter? That's sort of like, how do you explain that? So both of these views suffer some sort of hard problem right there, right? It's just that if you think about the way that I'm thinking about it, is at least we're talking about the same category. It's a larger leap. It's a much larger gap to close when you go from non-conscious to conscious, rather than consciousness to more consciousness as it relates to itself. Because we can see this even within our own experience.
When you go from consciousness to a mind looking like a brain, that seems like a really big leap. I don't understand how, like, I can't see your brain. I can see you, but I can't see.
But that's, for me, that's kind of like just, you know, asking why is things the way they are. It's kind of like saying, why is matter this way? Why is the universe this way and not some other way? It's because it is this way. There's really no answer to that question, right? I mean, this is the only universe or only reality we can reference. We only have one thing to reference. So that's kind of a hard question for everybody. That applies to everybody, I think. I don't know.
Your brain. So I'm experiencing you as a person with a hat and glasses on my, you know, so I think that's a real
well,
hard
the brain is
problem
not
to
the only
grasp.
way.
Right.
Well, that's not the only
Yeah.
way. It's like all observations are like that. Like, you know, you could see me as just an icon, like I'm seeing you as an icon or something. It's still the same thing. It's just a symbol. It's a representation of that conscious being, you know, in front of me externally.
Okay.
So that's really all it is. And if you're looking at a brain, you're looking at the same thing. If the brain is the tool or the interface that mediates consciousness, then that's what you're looking at from a third person point of view. Now, from a first person point of view, I don't experience neurons firing. I don't experience all of these sort of things that go on under the hood. I don't experience that.
Right.
It's all represented as a physical reality out there, right? That's how it's represented from first person point of view. From third person point of view, it would look like neurons firing and things like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Scott,
So
I have a question.
philosophy might want to
Yeah.
talk.
Go for it.
I have a question about this whole argument. So, materialists say that if you can't measure something, it doesn't exist, basically, right? There's no proof.
Right.
But if there's no demonstrable example that can demonstrate that complex matter, such as the brain, create consciousness, then I don't understand that that's
Oh, you're kind of roboting. Can you say that again?
wishful thinking.
Repeat that because you were roboting.
How about
Yeah, you're good.
now?
Yeah, try it.
Yeah, I was saying, like, when will materialists understand that it's wishful thinking? It's a belief. It's there is no demonstrable example. We cannot demonstrate that complex matter, such as a brain, creates consciousness. We can't do it. It's impossible right now.
Right. That's the hard problem. It's a hard problem because you're trying to explain your experience of the world by appealing to the experiences in the world to explain itself. And so that's the hard problem. You're using consciousness. Yeah, it's like you're using consciousness to explain consciousness. And that's pretty much the how the hard problem is described.
I don't understand why people can't just admit that. It's a belief. You don't know that. It's just as much of a belief as what an idealist says. And I would say consciousness being primary is way more coherent, and we actually see, we are confronted with that type of logic all the time. We know thought comes before action. I mean, you know, we see in cymatics how frequency shapes matter. When we look at Michael Levin's work, we keep being confronted with that concept that mind and thought shapes matter.
Right. And you know, they can never demonstrate that. They'll never be able to demonstrate that. You know, they just won't. And, you know, that's the problem with physicalism. They make these claims that they can demonstrate that matter is fundamental, and that everybody just jumps on it like it's a no-brainer, pardon the pun. But it's you know, it's just the belief system. It's just the belief system, you know. And so yeah, you can have metaphysical beliefs, but at least when you form your metaphysical framework, you
Well,
want to be
Joe,
entirely consistent. You want to be
Joe,
consistent. You know what I mean?
yeah, but Joe is saying you also can't demonstrate that consciousness is fundamental. Well, you can't really demonstrate it, but you can make a logical inference. And Michael Levin's work proves that a sort of a consciousness does exist without a brain. So that in itself debunks classical materialism, that a brain is not needed.
Right. So that's one thing I even brought up on this show. And again, like I just said, this is a metaphysics. There is no evidence for metaphysical claims. All you've got is arguments. So that's where a lot of physicalists, if they seem to oftentimes point to science, as these guys were, as the reasoning behind the metaphysic. They were always saying, well, when you damage the brain, you damage experience. This proves the metaphysic of physicalism. When it doesn't prove that at all. It just shows a correlation. And you know, and you can talk about function, you can talk about all that stuff, but you're just talking about behavior. You're not talking about ontology, you know. And the only way you're going to decide which metaphysic or which ontology makes more sense is, like I said at the beginning, you can try parsimony, explanatory power, and internal consistency. You know, we just heard the definition read earlier in this stream, nothing about brains. Well, right. But these, I'm addressing these guys, though. These guys are talking about brains. And let's be real. When people are talking about consciousness arising from matter, the matter that they're talking about is brains or neurons or something like that. You know what I mean? But if not, then they're not. That's cool.
To you at some point, so just make a note of that. But Scott, can you? We got a lot of really good chats going by, and I'm missing them because I'm trying to pay attention.
Yeah, I'm putting stuff up there.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Anyway, okay. So, God, where do I start? First of all, I don't believe in consciousness. I don't believe in mind. I don't think that's real at all. And
so he doesn't believe consciousness or the mind is real.
What?
Right. Now, this isn't physicalism. This is his opinion. So now I'm going to be addressing his opinion about mind and consciousness. It's not an attack on physicalism, Joel. So you got to keep track. I'm not grouping physicalism in with people who say that the mind or consciousness doesn't exist. That's what this particular physicalist has said.
And so there's that. So that takes care of the hard problem. I don't really have that because I'm an organism and something's happening here in myself, and a lot of things are happening, and we call that mind. You know, we can call that mind, or I can call it consciousness. Consciousness never happens to me unless I'm having these discussions and I'm thinking, oh, what am I conscious of? And then when I do that, what I do is I look around and I see stuff, which is not consciousness at all. It's just the shit I'm seeing, right? So anyway, I'm an eliminativist about consciousness, right? But I will say that there is something happening to me that fits into that grab bag suitcase word, mind and consciousness. But I think it's all bullshit that we've acquired through our culture, and I don't believe there's a hard problem at all.
So yeah, so that's his view, and this will be interesting going into that. But the comment here is you can get a brain injury that will completely change your personality, likes and dislikes, and self. How did the non-physical consciousness change with a brain injury? Well, I would just say that the brain changed and the
No, it's
consciousness
just
didn't go away. The consciousness did
that
not go away. It's just that the expression of the
he said,
consciousness
first of
changes.
all, I'm not making stuff up. I'm saying that is a real possibility. It's a coherent possibility. If the brain is an interface for consciousness, then that would explain why consciousness or perception can change once the brain is injured or influenced or anything like that through alcohol. That does not prove materialism. You're making stuff up as you're going along because thanks a lot. The universe agrees. The firecrackers. Yeah.
Fireworks.
With that being said, you're making stuff up as you go along, as does every materialist, because you're just assuming that you're just assuming that. I'm saying that's what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah, like, think about a radio. If you damage the speakers, the sound might become distorted, but that doesn't mean it proves that radios generate sound, the sound waves that come out of the cell towers or wherever, the radio station or whatever. Yeah, it just distorts the sound coming out of speakers. I mean, that logic wouldn't hold. Then you'd have to apply that same logic to everything else, and we know that breaks down. But it is a common though critique. Definitely. Now let's hear you say something out there like other animals don't have consciousness. I would never say that. I think consciousness is on a spectrum.
We actually made an argument.
Yeah.
We made an argument for animals to have consciousness just recently when someone tried to tell us that there is a chance that we don't exist. Go on now.
Yeah. Yeah, we believe consciousness is everywhere. It just it expresses itself through different systems. It's on a gradient. It's kind of like on a gradient, Anyways, I'm gonna keep playing along.
That's one thing on quantum mechanics. They may have done some really interesting particle experiments and some really interesting math, and they've kind of figured out that there are fields, and that these fields behave in a probabilistic manner at a quantum level. But I never deal in my reality is filled with objects that very much are observable, are there, are reachable, touchable. They stay in place. They have a time-space coordinate system, right? And so I don't buy any of the quantum problem at all, because quantum mechanics is basically the tip of an iceberg that we are approaching in our mathematics and our physics, and trying to understand what the hell is really going on at a fundamental level, right? But it has, there's a really wonderful quote I got from a guy, and I kind of modified it a little bit, but it's like a neutrino can go through a cement wall, right? And so, we have this basically quantum uncertainty that, probably there is a low probability, but you could go through a cement wall. But he always said, you are not a fucking neutrino. You are not a neutrino. You're a big macro object, right? That sort of thing. So I would dispel any of the quantum stuff. We're not physicists. We're not quite there. Physicists have very different views about this interpretation of quantum mechanics and what it means at a macro level. But we can all be very damn sure that we are things here in space-time.
So it sounds like he sort of assumed that I was one of these quantum mind people.
Yeah.
Like one of these people that say that, it's a quantum thing. I get my mind from the quantum interactions in my brain or something like that. And that's not really what I'm arguing for at all. Even though you could make that argument, though. There's people that make that argument, like the Orc Or, model, quantum biology. I mean, there's an argument to be made, but that just pushes the or kicks the can further down the road. Like, that's why I don't make those kind of arguments, because even if it was quantum based, then how does quantum interactions explain one conscious experience? It's still a hard problem to explain. So I'm not one of those guys that would actually make that that sort of argument. All right. You could call anything a philosophy if it's something you think about. You could call anything a science if it's something you experience. Okay. Well, materialism, physicalism is a metaphysical.
He's saying that because I just told him that, you know, materialism is a philosophy. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, man, they're getting rowdy over here. I don't know if I have no control over the noise, if anyone can hear that. They're going,
hey, it's New Year's Eve, man. New Year's Eve, people can get over that. But guys, by the way, if you're new to the channel and you like these kind of topics, you know, please like and subscribe to the channel. Trying to grow it up, man, and have some good conversations. Anyways, I guess I'll keep on going with that, and I'll mute you real quick. Hold on.
1 second.
And we
Hey,
have
Scott,
other things around us that are in space time.
Okay.
I think that's all we need to know to get going. Another point is I'm
Okay.
Structural realist, and I believe that chairs are real in every sense of the word, that it's not just the particles that the chair is made of, but it is the arrangement of the particles that makes a real thing called a chair. And
but that's just not scientifically correct, though. If you ask of you know, a physics person, what is a chair? He'll say it's an arrangement of atoms. It's a perspective, no one's promoting one way or the other as an absolute truth. In one aspect, a chair is a chair. It's the structure, the thing we call a chair. It's the label, because it meets certain criteria within that framework. But on a more theoretical physics sort of framework, a chair is nothing more than the arrangement of atoms and subatomic particles, right? It just depends on how we're talking about it. That's the whole point.
it's not behaving in a chair-like way. It is a goddamn chair because that's how it's structured. So there's that. What else? I don't know. that's what you're up against with me, basically, that I'm a hard physicalist because of this.
So I just want to be clear. So how do you know stuff if you're not conscious? How do you know all
how
this
do you
stuff?
know stuff? Well, that
Yeah,
was,
like how would you, without consciousness, how do you know stuff?
Without consciousness? I don't think
because you said that
that makes any sense.
Consciousness is bullshit.
Oh, okay. So anyway, for me, knowing things in the universe or knowing things in my physical environment is me as an organism fitting to the environment. My knowledge is my fit to the environment, right? I have knowledge of this cup here, right? And that involves a whole lot of neuroscience, my knowing that there's a cup, right? And that's a persistent state, even when.
Yeah, so he's just kind of denying all that. And X Music say a house is made of bricks, but we don't live in a brick. No one says we do. I don't understand what your point is there. If someone's discussing the foundation of a house, you're going to talk about bricks. You're going to talk about even lower, the cement, the foundation that it's built on. It depends on the topic. And what we're talking about is metaphysics, fundamental reality. So that's the only way it applies. Yeah, analogy, we are not particles, but we are particles, right? On physicalism, we are. On physicalism, we are physical particles. That's what we are on that perspective. Now, on a romantic, poetic sort of, expression, maybe not. Maybe we're more than just that. That's not the case. And no, we don't live in bricks. We don't live in fundamental reality. That's just That's just you not understanding the level of abstraction that we're talking about. That's all that really means, though. So let me keep on going here.
There's no cup and I'm sleeping, okay, there's still something about my brain that knows what a cup is and where it is. So knowledge is just fit to the physical world. So I see myself as an organism, sort of a little, you can imagine it like that we are little dust devils. You know, we're like dust devils floating across the environment, and we're doing all this stuff. And that stuff that we're doing, all that whipping around, that is what we feel is our mind, and we feel is our consciousness. And we'll make little squeaky noise. We'll make squeaky noises like consciousness and mind when we're dust deviling around the universe. But we are just physical things. So
Well,
anyway,
I agree that language is limiting, and maybe consciousness isn't the right word for this arising.
yeah.
But whatever this
consciousness.
arising is, I would say it's real, because if it wasn't real, then we have no foundation for knowledge to make such
Right.
claims.
Oh,
Right? I don't understand. How do you, without, let's just use, I don't know if you want to use the word consciousness, maybe we can call it arising. Without this arising, how do you know anything?
how do I know things without a? I mean, that depends on what you mean by know. I mean, knowing things to me is the structure of my brain over time. Basically, I have
How do
come
you
to
know
fit
that?
my environment over time.
But how do you know
Uh, be-
that, even that thing right there?
Because I know the first thing first, that so I make that assumption, right? That my knowledge is my fit to the environment, right? And then I start looking at the environment, and then I start looking at biology, and then
So it's just relabeling consciousness as something else, as just this being that experiences stuff and knows stuff. It's really just word games. It's really just redefining consciousness. And that's what you'll see with a lot of theories of consciousness. They always define consciousness in terms of something else, right? And I'll be the first to admit there can be a lot of problems with the term, you know, because in the end of the day, experience is something that's ineffable. You know, you can't really put words to it to really accurately describe an experience. So X Music said, no, understand perfectly, poking holes in it. So instead of having like live chat conversation while I'm doing this, come on in, man, and let's have a discussion. Come on in. Click on the link. I got it up there, the StreamYard link. You're invited, and you can kind of point these things out for me. We can explore it together if you'd like. And we can definitely do that. So I'm up to change my mind. If you have some holes I'm unaware of, please let me know. Let's just do it live. I think it'd be more interesting for everybody too. So anyways, I'll keep going.
start looking at neuroscience, and then I understand what I am. So it goes in a circle, sort of.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't need a
that's kind of what I'm
foundation.
getting at, is that with all worldviews, you're going to go into some sort of epistemic loop. I guess what
You
I'm
have to have an
basing
assumption.
I'm going to base my assumption. If I'm going to go with idealism, I would base that assumption on a rational, law-like mind structure to what bases all of this stuff that we experience on. For one thing, it would close the gap, and it would also explain a lot of things like law-like patterns and everything like that. Just as beautiful as once you get to a certain stage on physicalism, you do the same thing. But where
Okay.
all I'm saying is metaphysically, it sounds like physicalism is just saying it's a brute fact. It's not really anything that we can found it on. It's just an assumption that we see things this way, it's that way, and that's just the way it is. Okay, cool, X Music. Just anytime you want to jump on, you're more than welcome. It'd be a pretty cool show for you to come on and maybe show some holes in the thing, because that's you do know that's the whole point of this show, is we want to question all assumptions. And today we're just talking about physicalism. But if we want to do a show where you can poke holes in idealism, let's do it, man. I'm looking for those holes myself, and I know a few, but I want something that's really substantial, though, something that can move my needle one way or the other. That'd be exciting. So yeah, you're more than welcome to come on and give it a shot, please. Which is fine, but I'm just saying it's not really an explanation.
I think it is, because when you see things, physical things around you, and you understand how to operate in the physical world, which we all do, by the way. You know, we all have that basic knowledge that we acquired when we were between 1 and 3 years old about how physical things work in the world. When you have all of that knowledge, you can go on through grade school and high school and early college, and then a graduate degree in neuroscience, and you can figure out what is going on with those small steps, all based on physical things. And when you get to neuroscience, then you understand things like why we feel like we have a unified mind. That's a feature of your brain and your body.
But that's just more correlations. You learn all about the neural correlates of consciousness. And really all science, to be fair, all science is a science of correlation. You know, it's not doing metaphysics. That's the whole point. That's why when people bring up science and the brain and neuroscience, you're kind of getting out of physicalism, because you're no longer really talking metaphysics anymore. You're talking science. And it's like Joel said, you know, that's empiricism. That's not really physicalism. But a lot of physicalists will use those examples possibly, and use those as examples for why physicalism is the right metaphysic. And, you know, you have to address those. That's what I was telling you the other day, Joel. It's like, that's why these things come up. That's why I feel a need to address these things, because they're so common. It's always the argument, you know, consciousness is an emergent property of the brain. I can't tell you how, but trust me, bro, the science is going to figure it out one day.
Biology. It's not a physical fact anywhere. Well, it's a physical fact, I guess, but
It's a correlation.
anyway, yeah. So basically, I just accept the brute fact of objects in the universe around me. The thing that I know the most about, the thing that I do every day of my life, right, is to deal with the world around me. I don't deal with my mind all that much.
But the ironic thing here is that everything you know about the world is because of your mind. If you didn't have a mind, how would you know anything about the world? That's the part I don't really understand about this argument. It's like mind denial. It's like consciousness denial. And it's because they understand it is a problem. It is a problem for their worldview. How do I explain this first person experience? And so one tack they can make is to deny consciousness, deny that you even have a mind. And I just don't know what that means, because when they go to describing what it is that gives them knowledge about the world, they're describing consciousness. They're describing an awareness, an interaction, an observation. All of this stuff are modes of consciousness. So I really don't understand that. The only thing I can gather from it is it's just a way to dissolve the hard problem way. Like he says, it's just waving your hands and saying, oh, there is no consciousness. So that does away with the hard problem right off the bat. That's not a very clever, to me, a very clever solution, because consciousness or experience is the primary way we know anything.
Deal more with what's around me when I navigate through the universe and all that stuff. But anyway, let's see. Not sure where we could go with this.
Well, one thing I would say is that, you know, a lot of another way you can approach it is through making predictions.
Yeah.
You know, you can say, well, if, idealism were true, or if there's some sort of non-material explanation for matter, what predictions can we make on that?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, okay, if idealism is true, okay, we've got, how do you deal with the problem of there being a Mike and a Scott the Mere Point and a Old Scott? How do you deal with this shared reality that we have between us? Like, for instance,
Scott.
very old Scott. If you and I decided to have coffee together next week, right? We could lay out time-space coordinates, and we could actually meet at a Starbucks in Oklahoma. And we would actually meet. We would actually get there. That's a prediction, that I could actually meet you physically. And yet you're this disembodied mind. How do you account for that? How do you
Disembodied mind. This is another thing they assume. They think this is like religion or something. Like this is talking about souls that lift off your brain, like this separate dualistic kind of story. And that's the thing that it's so hard for them to understand. It's like, I've spent this much time describing idealism for how it's defined. And yet people still don't hear that. They have in their mind, it's either solipsism or it's some form of dualism, like a theism, like soul spirit type stuff. For some reason, that image is just kind of burned into their consciousness. They can't really get past the fact that that's a straw man argument. But it just takes time, because I guess people just are used to understanding things the way they do. So it is a challenge. And this is why these things kind of take time, and why I really shouldn't go down too many rabbit trails with folks, because you have to get through the basics, I realize.
Account for the structure of the physical world that these minds are creating, right? You know about the solipsism problem of idealism, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing. The assumption there is that there's a disembodied mind. And what I'm going to repeat is that on naturalistic idealism, at least in the way that I'm trying to argue for it, it's not that minds are disembodied, but that bodies are in mind itself. And so all of these patterns, law-like structures, cause and effects, what we describe as the physical world is going to hold naturally. It's predicted on idealism that way. I think maybe what you could do, because that runs into the principle of underdetermination. Is all I'm really saying. So like there's a comment, is it disembodied or is it in brain? Personally, but emergence. I'm not sure what you mean, but is it disembodied or is in brain? That's a false dichotomy with idealism, because it's not that the human brain houses or contains consciousness at all. It's that brains and bodies and structures on idealism are contained inside consciousness. So that's what we're talking about. That's the actual worldview. So it's the other way around. Just like consciousness is inside brains on physicalism, brains are inside consciousness on idealism. It's in reverse. We're shifting the paradigm around. So that's the assumption on idealism. YT, not sure what that means. Brian Stevens. I'm an old man. I don't know the lingo, bro, but I'm gonna keep going. Because that really is just an underdetermined type of argument. But what you could do is ask, well, what, physicalism can make, predictions. When I throw the ball up in the air, it's going to come back down. But what does idealism predict? What does this whole, mind-like thing beyond the neurons. How can you find out if that's true? Right? Now that's so yeah, and that's just going down a rabbit trail. I hate to do it. I gotta push this forward because I've got to get ready for dinner soon. So I gotta make it a little shorter. So I'll start here. I don't know where that is.
Inhaling and recognizing your breath and doing all of that, you are in a much better place because you've incorporated more of what you are than just your brain, just your mind, that sort of thing, right? And then you go a little bit further and you extend that to everything around you, to my cats and to you.
Oh yeah. This is very interesting. What he
you
said.
end up with
it's
not in,
this reality that just appears, and we just have words that we use to describe all of these appearances, and even the appearing. We have words, but it's ultimately ineffable. It's ineffable. So we try to have these words to kind of describe the experience. And all I'm really saying is that that's the first thing I know when I wake up in the morning, is that there's this arising of a reality, an existence, all my pains, all my bullshit, all the things I got to deal with, all of that stuff sort of arises in this continuous sort of story. But that's the first thing. So that's the primary way that I know I exist. It's kind of like this: I think, therefore I am, or you could say I experience, therefore I know things. So yeah, just real quick, Brian says, if that was true, then I could decide to be safe in interstate traffic and play there without worry, not buying it. But that's not what's said. Brian, you got to be careful, man. That's straw manning. That is straw manning the view. Again, I can say it till the cows come home. That's not what idealism is. And people will still insist that it means something other than what it really is, because it's not easy to destroy the real argument. It's a lot easier to create a straw man that you can easily burn down, because that's not even the argument being made. You already know they won't defend that. So you automatically win the point. But that's just not how logic works. That's not doing anything to refute idealism, because you're not really addressing anything that idealism really says. So you should probably ask, what does idealism say about me being safe in interstate traffic? Could I play there without worry? Maybe you should ask that. Because this is what a lot of people don't do. A lot of people just have knee-jerk reactions to worldviews they don't know anything about, and they just assume they know about it. And they hope that how they conceptualize these different worldviews will be that straw man view, but it's not. And you're not doing anything to really defeat that view or poke holes in it or whatever. So just something to think about, So if the view is we create the things entirely in our consciousness, so strike one, no one says you create the thing entirely in your consciousness. That's the first problem with this sentence. How is it that a straw man? Because, like I said, the view doesn't say you create things entirely in your consciousness. What's the difference between making it up in our head and this view? The whole question is malformed. It's not addressing idealism. I think you're thinking about solipsism. That's what you're thinking about. And this is common. A lot of people think that idealism is solipsism, and it's not. That's just not the case. In fact, it's the complete opposite. So that's what I base my epistemology on. So that's the first principle. So all of these other things appear inside my consciousness, like these objects, like these cells you're talking about, you guys. All of these things appear in my consciousness, like what they call them, objects within consciousness and philosophy, right? Yeah. So to look at the objects and say one of these objects explains the experience of the object just is problematic. That's all that I'm pointing out with physicalism. Is you're looking at that outside thing, this outside external world. You have no direct experience with in order to explain your direct experience of that object. You know, so it's just a little weird.
Yeah, I would deny all that. The first thing I do when I get up in the morning is count how many days old I am. I'm 27,388 today. And the second thing is I know I exist because my cats meow at me.
Okay, let me
I
get
don't
to a good
are
point.
real, which I think is a religious idea, because there's no more real than
Mutually expressive, you know, and never really divided in that way. So I agree with that. I mean, for the most part, like I say, I don't really care what people believe metaphysically. I mainly care about what people, how they act, what they do.
Yeah.
You know.
Are you familiar with the embodied mind movement that came up
No.
around 1990? Well,
If you have no direct experience of something, how are you experiencing it at all? Because I'm talking about on physicalism. On physicalism, you have no direct experience with the external world. You know, the experience is an interpretation. It's filtered through your brain. So photons, you know, electrons, fields, sound waves, all these things occur to your sense organs, your sense apparatus, and your brain processes all that information and constructs an illusion of an outside world you call reality that you experience. That's what physicalism says. So in other words, physicalism says reality is all in your head. But idealism is saying the complete opposite. It's saying, no, these real things are out there, you know, but they're out there as a category within a conscious mind. That's all idealism is saying. So, yeah, you don't have direct access on physicalism to the outside world, according to physicalism. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, your brain is a filter. It's kind of like, yeah. So it's brain in avatar experience, possibly, maybe like an inverted matrix is how they say it. But like with idealism, it's what you experience is your reality. But you understand what it is. You just admit that what you're seeing is just an experience. At least on non-dualism. I know idealism is an ontological claim. So it's a little bit different than just your direct experience. But I hope that might help. I don't know.
it actually came up way before that with, but anyway, people like Varela, I think his name is Evan Thompson. It's called The Embodied Mind. There's a book called The Embodied Mind that you should really check out and take a look at. And that's where I started. And the idea was that the mind isn't in the brain, that's in the brain and body. But then I've extended that to call it the enworlded mind, where my mind is in the world, you know, this world, this locality around me, that sort of thing. And just a different way to look at it. But anyway.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this idea.
I thought about that. I did hear about that. It's like a field. It's an intersubjective field of consciousness. So it's what he was talking about. And he's just saying that those things are physical, but you could easily just call them consciousness, and you're just playing word games at that point. What you're really saying is that the only thing you know is the experience of this intersubjective field of experience that other people share with you. And yeah, I mean, it turns into kind of like a word game. So the version of idealism is no longer Plato's. I don't know. Plato was all about forms, like Platonic forms, right? So it may have some connection to that in some ways, I imagine. But I don't know if I accept Platonism classically. You know what I mean? But it's kind of sort of, I guess it's in the family of idealism. You know what I mean? the Platonic form idea. And again, when I'm conceptualizing this ontology, I don't even know if mind is really the right word to put it, or consciousness would be the right word to put it, because in my mind, there has to be something you're conscious of, even if it's within your own internal state. So consciousness is that. It's that subjective experience of being what it's like. But how can you know what it's being like to be just some, monistic property? Like, how does that work? I have no idea. And I don't even know if consciousness would be the right word to put on it, but it would be something related to it. It would be some sort of law, some sort of, something like that, like a Platonic form, but it'd be more dynamic. It'd have to be, I would think. We just think through these things. We don't know a lot of these things, but, anyways, I'll keep on. We're almost done here, I think.
Of the idea, we have this word real, and then we have the capital R real, that we frequently do, like what's real. But all we're doing, okay, we are tool making and using organisms that manipulate things with our fingers and our hands and whatever, in our words and all of that. We're very manipulative little organisms, and we have this constant, interaction with things around us, like objects around us, right? And like my cup here, I have a cup, and I'll say, okay, that's real. But then we want to get to this capital R real, which I think is a religious idea, because there's no more real than me just grabbing this cup. I have my fingers, all 5 fingers, feeling the cold at the outside of my coffee cup. My coffee's cold. And that is the real that we're talking about. So we're always dealing with organisms. And when you go to the quantum level, you're trying to recover that same thing, but you can't. Because we can't go to the quantum level because we're not fucking neutrinos.
You can't. We're not neutrinos. No, I agree with everything you just said. I love that. Because that's when people talk about real, that's really what we're talking about, is that experience, that first primary experience. Yeah, that's all we really know, is that we're experiencing these things. The rest of it is like religion. It's like an inference. It's like just stuff that we sort of project onto the world. Like we're really just exploring our experience, our perceptions. That's all it is. Like whether you're talking about philosophy, science, everyday life, all it is an exploration into your perceptions. That's what they are. Okay, I just was only familiar with idealism through Plato's forms. I didn't know it had been appropriated as something else, not kept up philosophy. Yeah. And philosophy is not going to make you happy, man. It's just a lot of mental masturbation, but you know what? Masturbation is healthy for you, right? That's why we don't experience beyond the Planck length. We don't experience those things. So when we start talking about reality is fundamentally those things, well, how do you know that? Those are abstractions. The only thing you really know is your experience of the here and now in your body, in your environment, and how you're interacting and all the feelings and everything that go along with it. That's reality.
And everything around you is reality. The rock. I mean, what I don't like about idealism is that it tends to disfavor or discount real things like rocks.
So there's another straw man that I hear this all the time. The external world doesn't exist. Rocks don't exist. That's a very common critique. But again, that's a straw man. There's nothing about idealism that says the external world does not exist. It have consequences on your experiences, by the way.
And trees and all the shit around us. It basically it says that everything's in my brain, my mind.
That's my mind
thing, right?
No, that's
kind of, yeah.
See, idealism isn't saying that. That was the first thing I had to learn years and years ago when I started studying this stuff. Because I used to say the same thing. It's just another form of solipsism. But what I've come to realize is that it's actually the opposite. Solipsism is to say that reality is constructed in your mind, and so everything that's real is in your mind. Now, old-fashioned materialists used to say the same thing. They'd say that actually, yeah, you get these, photons, and it digests all these sense experiences through the apparatus of your sense organs, and your brain constructs reality. So reality is all in your head. That's like solipsism. That's solipsism.
Okay.
No, idealism saying, no, what's out there is the real shit. That is real. We're saying the opposite. And we're saying that we can decode it because we're mental. We're relating to what is real out there. So it's all just one non-dual sort of thing, for a better term. But
Yeah, we
if you
built
use
a
the
bridge
rules of
now,
physicalism, it breaks down, is what that points to too.
and now we've built the bridge between physicalism and idealism, because all you have to do is replace mental with physical.
Yep. Yeah. There you go.
You're in exactly the same. And Scott, goddamn sense data. Are you kidding me? You're bringing up sense data. I'm going to throw you out of the studio.
Yeah. So that's where it breaks down into semantics, because if we can both agree that we live in a field of awareness, and that it's just something that appears to us, whether you want to call it consciousness or just some awareness arising to you somehow, it's all the same thing. It's just a field of awareness. That's really all you know it to be. What's real is that. Everything else is just inferences, things we guess. And the mind is limited, and we're always changing our paradigms in history. Our history is full of changing the way that we define reality. Why did it happen? Why aren't we susceptible to more changes, more paradigm shifts? It could be true. That's why it's always fun to question assumptions, because that's how that stuff starts. You start finding, hard problems, conceptual problems that can't be fixed, and you start changing the paradigm. You start building evidence off alternative views, and then eventually some theory or hypothesis wins out, and you change, and then that's subject to change. So I don't think we're ever going to get to capital T truth or capital R real. I think we just keep discovering stuff. It's like a journey, and every axiom we have has to be explained. So we can explain an entire framework on an assumption, but then we'll never really explain the assumption. And then we'll start trying to, and it'll lead to other stuff. But even if we now create a new framework that explains that assumption, now you have to explain its assumption, and it just goes on infinitum. That's the whole thing about theories. Good theories define their constraints, their limits. And that's just human nature.
Okay.
I hate sense data.
I guess I will take my dog for a walk then.
No, don't go, Scott. I'm just kidding.
Now, Scott, did you did Mike say that you did a video dealing with presuppositionalism?
Oh
yeah.
Well, I have a question for you about that.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts about presuppositionalism? Number one, and number two, when did you quit wanting to put an ice pick through your brain after dealing with presuppositionalism?
Oh man, for real. Are you familiar with a guy named Darth Dawkins?
Oh,
yes. Yeah.
I got my most. He actually came on the channel and tried to bully everything.
I got my most views from that video that I've ever had. If you want views, just say Darth Dawkins out loud.
There you go. Boom, you'll get them. Yeah, I mean, presuppositionalism, it's just, for me, the problem with Christian presuppositionalism is they won't own up to what they mean by presuppositional. That word presup means it's an assumption going in. So while you can make a coherent argument within any sort of framework based on your presupposition, it's the presupposition that never gets questioned. It's like they want to keep you from questioning the premise, the assumption, which is for them the Christian God, right? The Trinity. So they'll say, The Trinity is just assumed at the beginning. And so we're going to make sense of everything else on there on up. So what you would want to ask them is, well, why should I accept your presupposition of God? And then they'll say, well, you couldn't even ask such a question if there was no God, because how do you explain logic? So they start flipping the table on you and stuff like that. For me, that's a dishonest way to argue. For me, if you're going to presuppose, like everybody's got maybe a presupposition and a worldview, which is fine, but we have to get everyone to agree on the presupposition first. Or we can do an internal critique and say, okay, I'll grant you the premises of your argument, but let's look inside your, like I had this one debate with a presup about 6 months ago. He was a pastor and he was running the presup argument on me. And I was saying, okay, so the only thing I can really do is just agree with you that God, therefore, the Bible is true. Okay, since I'll go ahead and grant you that, let's go ahead and look in the Bible and see if there's any contradictions with the God and what the Bible says about the God. And they don't want to do that. They'd rather stick on, well, no, you don't really believe what I believe. Like, well, it doesn't matter. I'm saying I do. Now, let's do an internal critique. They don't want to do that, which I find highly suspicious, you know.
Yeah. You
It's
did
like
a
if I was
wonderful
gonna-
video.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You did a wonderful video called Reaction Pastor Refutes Atheism at a March, where
Yeah.
I agreed wholeheartedly with everything you said. I just posted it in chat, and I'm going to link it in my description. And I've also linked your
thank
channel in my description. So anyway.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. And like I said, I don't get too emotional or contentious about worldviews. Like I keep them in their place, but I am a non-dualist at heart. Like I just see everybody in myself and vice versa, just as an experiential thing or as a practice, not necessarily as a philosophy per se. And you know, it's kind of like a permission slip for me to be a better person, so to speak.
So I just subscribed to Scott's Mirror Point YouTube channel. And
Everybody
I encourage
should.
everybody else to as well. Look for updates. Go back and look at his archive.
Go find the
that
mushroom
was
guy
really
is
cool.
here.
That was really cool of them, man, to promote the channel. And I got a few, several subscribers, and I appreciate them. And like I say, this was a real constructive conversation. I learned a few things. Hopefully they learned a few things, at least about idealism, that they may not have known before. It's not that you have to agree. I don't expect anyone to agree with it. In fact, I expect the opposite. I expect for something like this to sort of be, because it's so non-intuitive, it doesn't really align well with the way that reality is demonstrated to us on a very surface level. The only way to really get at idealism is when you start really digging in to what we mean by fundamental. You know, you start looking at these things that I was hopefully outlining. But if you don't believe it, that's not a problem. I don't, like I say, I don't think that makes you a good or bad person, a smart or dumb person, anything like that. It's just everybody's different. Everybody reasons differently. But the one thing I will say is that when you consider metaphysics, regardless of what conclusion you come to, just engaging kind of makes you sharper as a thinker. It tends to be like a way to test your reasoning skills, skepticism, stuff like that. Like, how far can you go? Are you going too far as a skeptic? Are you willing to be skeptical of your own views? How can I be? What questions could I ask myself that would really question my worldviews? And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, it's healthy and it's fun. And yeah, that's what this channel is all about. But anyways, guys, man, thank you for coming through. I hope it was entertaining or whatever. I know this kind of topic can be boring for a lot of people. So I have trust that people that come to this channel like these kind of conversations. And if you do, please like and subscribe to the channel. I mean, I want as much people that like this kind of stuff is possible, so we can do more of it and maybe interview a lot more big names and people that are very interesting, authors, people like that talk about religion, spirituality, atheism, dualism, non-dualism, all of that kind of stuff. We'd love to do it. I'm here for it, man. So anyways, guys, thank you so much, man, for coming through. I'll take Brian one more time. It says a lot of things in science that have not been utterly falsified or counterintuitive. Our intuition is trained on a macro scale and reflects that scale only. Exactly, man. Thank you so much for that. That's so true. And it kind of gets to that fundamental question. When we start talking about fundamental things, then sometimes the micro stuff gets thrown in. You start talking about, stuff like that, because you're trying to dig down to the bottom, the reductionist approach. You can try that. So yeah, man. Anyways, guys, thanks a lot for coming through, and we'll see you soon. Out.